Hello students, myself Dr. Sucharita Bhattacharya, Associate Professor of Physics from Guru Nanak Institute of Technology, Kolkata, once again welcoming you in my lecture series on electromagnetic theory. The lecture I am delivering for Physics 2 of third semester BTech course, and the streams I am considering are Computer Science and Engineering and Information Technology. Today, I am going to deliver lecture 16 of my lecture series. Now, let us check what is there in our lecture 16. You students already know that right now we are in the submodule 4.04 of module electromagnetic theory, and the topics of the submodule 4.04 is electromagnetic wave and polarization, where 3 lectures are allocated. And today's lecture session is the third lecture here. Today's lecture session is the third lecture here, where I will discuss the Nichols prism, its construction and its working as polarizer and analyzer, then its engineering applications, then fundamental concepts of plane, circular and elliptic polarizations. Basically, the classification of polarizations. Naturally, the questions to be addressed are: what is a Nichols prism? Next one, how is it constructed? Next, what is its working principle? Then we will go for how Nichols acts as polarizer. Next, I will discuss how it acts as analyzer. Definitely, the engineering applications will come after that. Then I will go for classification of polarization, circular and elliptic polarizations, particularly because already we have discussed the linear or plane polarization. And lastly, the overall applications of the phenomenon of polarization. So, students, let us start our today's session. Now, I am starting with the Nichols prism and definitely its basic idea and the construction. It is a device for producing and analyzing a plane polarized light whose working is based on the phenomenon of double refraction. In our lecture session, the phenomenon of double refraction in very detail we have discussed. So today you will find basically the application of the phenomenon of double refraction in the form of Nichols prism. Now, it was the Scottish physicist Nichols who gave the idea, the brilliant idea of how this type of device can be made for production and analysis of plane polarized light. Now, what about the basic idea of Nichols? Let us take a look. When unpolarized light is transmitted through a doubly refracting crystal like calcite, we all know it splits in O ray and the E ray. Now, completely plane polarized both, but their directions of vibrations are perpendicular to each other. For O ray, it is the principal section of this polarizer or analyzer, that means the doubly refracting crystal, and for E ray, it is parallel to the principal section. For O ray, it is perpendicular to principal section. For E ray, it is in the principal section or parallel to that. That means they are mutually perpendicular. Now, if by some technique one of the beam can be eliminated, we are getting two, one is E and the other is O. If by some technique one of the beam can be eliminated out of these two, and then other beam will be emerge out in the form of a single plane polarized light. That means starting with unpolarized one, at the outset you are getting one plane polarized one. That means the purpose is solved. Here, Nichols eliminated O ray by utilizing the phenomenon of total internal reflection. How Nichols did that, let us now take a look. So, we have to start with the construction part of a Nichols. Basically, it is a calcite rhombohedron. It is a calcite rhombohedron. Now, what about rhombohedron? If a rhombus, you all are familiar with a rhombus. If a rhombus is revolved or rotated in 3 dimension, then we used to get the structure of rhombohedron. Just look at the outer surface, you will get the idea. So, calcite rhombohedron is taken whose length is roughly 3 times its breadth. The length is roughly 3 times its breadth, and we are considering here the principal section of this calcite rhombohedron, that is ACC1A1, the principal section of the rhombohedron which contains the optic axis and is taken by a plane which is perpendicular to opposite end faces. Take a look. This is one end face and this is other end face. Through the middle it is taken so that it is perpendicular to opposite end faces and containing the optic axis. So the principal section of the calcite is chosen here as ACC1A1 from calcite rhombohedron whose length is roughly 3 times its breadth. Now, let us take a look. We are considering this principal section separately in the form of figure 2a, that is ACC1A1. Now, just take a look. What about its shape? It is a parallelogram. The principal section of the rhombohedral which is chosen, it is of shape of parallelogram whose angles are 71 degree and this is 109 degree, because you know their sum must be 180 degree. Okay. Now there are two refracting phase. One is AC, other is A1, C1. That means the top surface and the bottom surface. Now these two refracting faces are ground and polished. The two refracting faces of a crystal, if ground and polished, then definitely some angle will be cut out. Here, according to the prescription of Nicol, the angle 3 degree cut out from the top and the bottom refracting faces. That means A is now shifted here as A prime and C1 is now shifted here as C prime. Naturally, the angles are 68 degree and here the angle is 112 degree. That means here angle reduces by 3 degree, here angle increases by 3 degree. So the new shape of the parallelogram is A prime C, C prime A1. A prime C, C prime A1. Now it is cut along A prime C prime into two equal halves by a section which is by a plane rather which is perpendicular. That means angle C A prime C prime is 90 degree. I am repeating, the new shape of the parallelogram A prime C C prime A1, it is now cut along A prime C prime by a plane such that the angle C A prime C prime equal to 90 degree. Now, very interesting one. Now, these two cutout halves, because you have divided it into two sections, so these two cutout halves are now cemented together by an interposed layer of a special type of adhesive called Canada balsam. The two cutout halves are cemented together by an interposed layer of a special type of adhesive known as Canada balsam, mentioned here as CB. That means inside the calcite crystal, you are now incorporating one different medium in the form of an adhesive, the Canada balsam, very special one as chosen by the Nicol. Okay. Now, CC prime, this side is also coated with a black paint. The side C, C prime is also coated with a black pen. So this is the final outfit of the nickel prism, which will be considered for working as polarizer as well as analyzer. So this is the entire construction part I discussed in detail in these 3 steps. Okay. So the incorporation of Canada balsam within the calcite, that is very, very important one. Clear? Now, let us take a look how nickel prism act as polarizer. Let us consider one incident ray. Obviously, it is unpolarized and it is being incident with the directions nearly parallel to longer dimension of the nickel prism so made. Okay, the incident beam which is being incident nearly parallel to longer dimension of this prism developed. Now what about the angle of incidence? Let it be I. This is the normal with respect to this face, so this is the angle of incidence I. Now look here. Inside the crystal, it will be broken up into O ray as well as E ray. We know O ray means the vibrations are perpendicular to principal section of the crystal, and for E ray, the vibrations are parallel to the principal section of the crystal. So unpolarized light is now changed to two or splitted to two plane polarized light. One is O ray, other is E ray. Now look here. Calcite is a negative crystal. We already have discussed. That means its velocity of O ray. Inside the calcite, the velocity of O ray is less than velocity of E ray. That means the refractive index of calcite for O ray is greater than the refractive index of calcite for E ray. Negative crystal means velocity is greater than velocity of extraordinary ray is greater than ordinary ray, but for refractive indices it will be just the reverse, because refractive index and velocity relation is mu equal to C by V. Now for calcite, we know the refractive index value inside calcite for O ray is 1.658, and the refractive index of calcite for E ray, it is 1.486 in other directions, but in the direction of optic axis it is 1.658, the same one. Now look here, the refractive index of Canada balsam, that is mu CB, it is 1.55. That means lies in between mu O and mu E. It is a brilliant choice of nickel, the material medium whose refractive index lies between these two. Okay. Now why I am talking about the brilliant choice? Let us try to explore that. So let us first try with E ray. Clear? Now, when E ray is approaching towards the Canada balsam interface with respect to the calcite, it is the movement of the light from optically rarer to denser medium. Just take a look. For E ray, as it tries to pass through towards the Canada balsam, it is the movement of light from optically rarer medium to denser medium. I already mentioned that nickel used the phenomenon of total internal reflection. For total internal reflection, we all know that light must move from denser to rarer medium. But here, light is moving in the form of E ray from rarer to denser medium. That means the possibility of total internal reflection is ruled out for E ray, and it is simply transmitted out of the opposite face of the prism. Possibility of total internal reflection for E ray is ruled out, and it is simply transmitted out of the opposite face of the prism. Now, what about the case for O ray? Very, very interesting one. For O ray, just take a look. It is trying to pass from calcite towards the Canada balsam. Now, If you look at the refractive index of the calcite for ore, it is more than that for Canada balsam. So as ore tries to approach from calcite to Canada balsam, it is basically the passage of light from optically denser to rarer medium. The passage of light from optically denser to rarer medium. So the first condition of total internal reflection is satisfied. The first condition of total internal reflection is satisfied for ore. Let us now move to the next condition. Again, critical angle for calcite Canada balsam interface is obtained from sine theta, if theta is the critical angle, equal to mu CB by mu O. You all know the expression for critical angle is the ratio between the refractive indices, that is final divided by initial. So mu of Canada balsam by mu of calcite for ore. The values are known to us, 1.55 for Canada balsam and it was 1.658. So in 2-digit approximation, we have taken it as 1.66. And from there, the theta value comes out to be 69 degree, exactly 69.2 degree or like that, but nearly 69 degree. That means critical angle for calcite Canada balsam interface is 69 degree. So to satisfy the second condition of the total internal reflection, we need angle of incidence to be greater than the critical angle for ore inside the crystal. That's why the length of the nickel prism is made 3 times its breadth to make Canada balsam layer sufficiently oblique, which help to make the angle of incidence to attain the required value of 69 degree. What do we mean by that? Just take a look. This is the inclination or obliquity of the Canada balsam layer. Now, what about the angle of incidence for ore? To have the angle of incidence for ore, what we will do? We will consider a perpendicular here. On this Canada balsam layer, we will consider the perpendicular, that is the normal. Then what about the angle of incidence? With respect to this normal, this angle will be the angle of incidence for ore. Here, if you draw a normal, then with respect to this, you will get the corresponding angle of incidence. Now, it is the case for the parallelogram whose length is 3 times its breadth. If you consider any square type of surface, that means whose length and breadth are same, then what about the obliquity factor? Definitely, it will be aligned this way. It will be aligned, the Canada balsam layer will be aligned this way. And now if you draw the normal, naturally the angle will be much less. If you take the square type of surface, then what about the Canada balsam layer alignment? It will be like that. Here it will end. Then what about, this is the normal, what about the angle? Naturally it will be less, isn't that? So let us move to that part, that is the length of the nickel prism is made 3 times its breadth to make Canada balsam layer sufficiently oblique, which makes the angle of incidence to attain the required value of 69 degree. Because inclination of this Canada balsam layer will be very, very high, and it will help us to attain the second condition of total internal reflection, that is angle of incidence will be more than the critical angle. Naturally, ore will suffer. Both the conditions are satisfied, first one and the second one. So ore will suffer total internal reflection at the Canada balsam layer, and it will be absorbed at the black coating. The ore will suffer total internal reflection and it will be absorbed at the black coating of the side face, and only E ray will come out. So starting with unpolarized light, we are getting one plane polarized light to come out, and the other plane polarized light is somehow absorbed inside the nickel. That's why we are getting at the end the one unpolarized light from one plane polarized light, I'm sorry, from unpolarized light. That was the primary motivation for Nicol prism to work as polarizer. That means you have to start with the unpolarized light and you have to get one plane polarized light. So this is the way how Nicol acts as polarizer. And I think all of the students, you are understanding how brilliant was the thinking of Nicol, isn't that? Let us now move to the working of Nicol as analyzer. Now, to show the working of Nicol as analyzer, we have to take two identical Nicol prisms which are kept side by side. First one is the polarizing Nicol P and second one is the analyzing Nicol A. In both figures, we have taken two Nicol prism P and the A as polarizer and analyzer. Now, we will start with unpolarized light. So inside the Nicol, it will be broken up into E ray and the O ray, and O ray will suffer total internal reflection. So we will get out of the polarizing Nicol E ray to come out, whose vibrations are in the principal section of polarizing Nicol P. Now, in the first case, when P is kept parallel to A, in the first case, when P is kept parallel to A, the E ray having vibrations in the principal section of P will definitely have vibrations again in the principal section of A when it enters inside the analyzing Nicol A. Naturally, it will come out as E ray freely by transmitting through refraction. So, E ray will come out through the analyzing Nicol and we will get the maximum intensity of the polarized light. But come in the second figure, that is case 2. You are starting with unpolarized light. You are getting E ray to come out of the polarizing Nicol P because O ray will be eliminated through total internal reflection. Now look here. A, the analyzing Nicol has been rotated through 90 degree. That means it is made perpendicular by rotating A. So A has been rotated and kept at 90 degree with respect to P. Now listen very carefully. The E ray having vibrations in the principal section of P now entering inside the analyzer A, but this time its vibration will appear with respect to principal section of A as perpendicular to its principal section because you have rotated A through 90 degree with respect to E. That means E ray with vibrations in the principal section of P entering inside A, but this time its vibration will appear as perpendicular to principal section of A. That means it will behave as the O ray. It will behave as the O ray. Naturally, you will find O ray will suffer total internal reflection and simply it will be absorbed at the black coating and beyond the analyzing Nicol, we will get no light at all. So listen very carefully. E ray with respect to principal section of P will appear as O ray with respect to principal section of A because you have rotated A with respect to P by 90 degree. So this ray will work as O ray here and O ray means it will suffer total internal reflection and beyond A you will get no light at all. So this is the way how Nicol acts as analyzer here in this orientation or setting the combination we are getting the parallel alignment and maximum intensity of the polarized light and in the second one this combination is working as crossed alignment and we are getting no light at all as expected from the basic principle of working of polarized light, isn't that? So I hope you are understanding how Nicol acts as polarizer, and how Nicol acts as analyzer. Now coming to the engineer applications part, Nicol prism actually were once widely used in microscopy and polarimetry. But right now, the working of Nicol has been replaced by some other type of recent days Polaroids, though the basic idea remaining same, but structure wise something different is happening. So the basic area of working of Nicol was microscopy and the polarimetry. Okay. Now let us move to the next part, that is the fundamental concept of various type of polarization, basically the classification which we will discuss in the form of qualitative idea as per our syllabus. Now the wave polarization we all know is determined by the simultaneous use of the simultaneous oscillations, the basic polarization means the transverse vibration it is considering where electric and magnetic field both are working perpendicular to each other simultaneously with direction of propagation perpendicular to both of them. But in case of polarization, we normally consider the direction of the electric vector. That means the polarization direction means the direction of the electric vector. Now, this electromagnetic wave polarization is classified as primarily as plane or linearly polarized one, then circularly polarized and elliptically polarized one. So polarization phenomenon can be classified in three classes: plane or linear polarization, circular polarization, and elliptic polarization. In case of plane polarization, you know, for plane polarized light, the electric vector maintains a fixed direction in space and varies simple harmonically along a fixed straight line in a plane perpendicular to direction of propagation. This is the plane polarized light with which we are familiar. That means it vibrates simple harmonically along a fixed straight line in a plane, and this is the case of plane polarized light. But in case of other two, we have to superpose two plane polarized beams of monochromatic light with mutually perpendicular vibrations. You have to superpose two plane polarized light wave with mutually perpendicular vibration, and under some suitable conditions it is found that a resultant light vector will be produced, and that resultant light vector is found to rotate in a plane. The resultant light vector, say one is this one, other is this one. So if you superpose them, you will get a resultant light vector. That resultant light vector is found to rotate in a plane perpendicular to direction of propagation. Now, if the magnitude of the resultant light vector remain constant, the resulting light is spoken of as circularly polarized one. If the magnitude of the resultant light vector remain constant, we used to get the circularly polarized one. And for producing circularly polarized light, amplitudes of the superposing waves are same. For producing the circularly polarized light, amplitude of superposing waves must be same, because I already mentioned that under suitable conditions, I already mentioned that under suitable conditions, what about the suitable condition for circularly polarized light? The amplitudes must be same. Now, circular polarization can be classified as left circularly polarized when circle is described counterclockwise with respect to an observer towards whom the wave travels. Similarly, for right circularly polarized case, the circle is described clockwise. So, I am repeating that circular polarization can be classified as left circularly one when circle is described counterclockwise. This is the case. Okay. And with respect to an observer towards whom obviously the wave travels. And for right circularly polarized case, the circle is described clockwise. The circle is described clockwise. Here, one vibration is along this direction, other vibration is along this direction, and you are getting circularly polarized one. Now, there is elliptic polarization also. If after superposition of two plane polarized waves under suitable condition, the magnitude of the resultant light vector so produced is found to vary periodically between its maximum and minimum during its rotation. And then its tip would trace out an ellipse and the resulting light is spoken of as elliptically polarized one. Just take a look. Here we are considering the two mutual vibrations perpendicular one, and when you superpose them you will get a resultant light vector. This resultant light vector is found to rotate in a plane with magnitudes one maximum and the other minimum. So naturally its tip would trace out an elliptic path and the corresponding light is termed as elliptically polarized one. And definitely for elliptically polarized light, the amplitude of the superposing waves are different. In case of circular polarization, it was same, but for elliptic polarization, the amplitudes of superposing waves are different. Elliptically polarized light can also be classified as left elliptical and the right elliptical polarization, just in the same line as that of the circularly polarized light. So, left elliptical and right elliptical. And since the electric field can rotate clockwise or anti-clockwise as it propagates, naturally elliptically polarized waves exhibit chirality, the chiral property. Elliptically polarized light exhibits the chirality or the chiral property. Now, let us come to the overall applications of polarization. Already we have seen that polarization phenomenon confirms the transverse nature of electromagnetic wave. And polarization of light very specifically is crucial for many optical applications. It is an important property of light that affects even those optical systems which do not explicitly measure it. So much important it is. What about that? Let us take a look one after another. The polarization of light affects the focus of laser beams. It influences the cutoff wavelengths of filters and can prevent very important one, unwanted back reflections. Okay. It is essential for many metrological applications like stress analysis in glass or plastic, pharmaceutical ingredient analysis, another very important part, and biological microscopy. I already mentioned about microscopy in case of nickel applications too. Different polarizations of light can also be absorbed to different degrees by the material. An essential property for LCD screen. The liquid crystal display screen for their different type of polarization of light which is absorbed by different degrees of material is used intensifiedly. Three-dimensional movies we use it, and very common one, that is glare reducing sunglass. The glare reducing sunglass with which you students are very much familiar and you simply love it to have it. So polarization is used there for glare reducing sunglasses. Okay. So these are the different applications of polarization. Now let us come to the case of the university questions about which you have a lot of interest. That what type of questions can be said. Let us take a look whether we have discussed or not one after another. First one, obviously, state and explain Malas's law. State and explain Malas's law. I think you don't need to uh, give the any idea about it because already you are very much familiar with it. Okay. So all of you know it. That I equal to I0 cos square theta. How to explain it? That is also known to you. Using the necessary diagram, you will do it. Clear? Next one. state Brewster's law and show that at polarizing angle, reflected and refracted rays are perpendicular to each other. Here also, you don't need any help from anyone because everything is discussed very detailed, and I hope all of you understood it. Next question. Is Brewster's law valid for denser to rarer medium? Explain. Obviously, the answer is yes. And the statement changes to mu equal to cot p, that you will explain. Clear? What do you mean by birefringence? Explain with examples. Now, birefringence means the double refraction. The term is a little bit different. The term is birefringence means it is the phenomenon of double refraction. Explain with example. All of you can do it. Next question. What are uniaxial and biaxial crystals? Give examples. It is also discussed. Uniaxial means the system having one optic axis. Biaxial means the system having two optic axis, not optic axis. The example of uniaxial means the tourmaline, calcite, quartz, and for biaxial, topaz, aragonite. Next question. Compare the behavior of positive and negative crystals. Lot of points are given here, and you can isolate actually the Huygens ideas about the positive and negative crystals, because questions come from there separately by mentioning that according to Huygens explanation, you compare. If it is not given in general, then in general you will discuss where VO greater than VE, where for positive, and the negative one, what about that VE greater than VO? In terms of refractive indices, things will be different. And then with respect to the Huygens one, you will give the idea, and obviously the examples are known to you. Next one, how Nichols prism can be constructed. In very detail, in different steps, we have discussed few minutes back, so all of you can answer it very easily. Explain the working of Nichols as polarizer and analyzer. It can be given in two parts. Explain the working of Nichols as polarizer, or explain the working of Nichols as analyzer, as well as both. You can give the answer very easily. I hope that, because everything I discussed in very detail, isn't that? What do you understand by circular and elliptic polarizations? So the discussions what we have done, I hope you can understand very easily what about circular and elliptic polarization. Accordingly, you can answer it very easily because it is a qualitative discussion part. Okay. Now the problems on polarization already done. So you students, as per our lecture series on electromagnetic theory, I think we have covered everything, the questions, the problems, and the all detailed topics, and you understood the things. Still, if you face any difficulty, please feel free to contact me in my given numbers as well as the given web address, that means my email ID. You can use it. And for the time being, I am closing this lecture session because it is already completed. So thank you all the students for your cooperation what I got. Then we will again start with the new session, and definitely with the new you can say the lecture series. Okay. Till then, be safe, be healthy, and enjoy your days. So thank you, my dear students.